Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time is for you, wherever you are, whether you are in Europe or in Asia, maybe somewhere in America, tonight you are in Reno, where Emma has just encountered what she's not too sure what to make of them. They seem someone that seemed to be human, but yet she sensed they were using powers or something supernatural on her. It seemed it did not work, though. It seemed her mind was stronger than theirs. And as that happens, she decides to head to the church. She saw that this person had a map with her neighborhood in a little circle. So she decides to go to the church, and she messages the ghoul saying, I need to see Father Alvarez, and I will need to stay at the church for tonight.
A text message will respond a few moments later by the ghoul of Prince Alvarez, asking what circumstances have caused her to request such a very, very distressing request.
She will say that she'll answer with a message saying, "Do not worry, the danger has been dealt with for now, but I cannot go back to my haven. Further, it will be discussed further when at the church. This needs to be talked to face by face."
After about a minute later, which might seem like a particularly long time for Miss Emma as she's waiting a response, the phone will sort of jingle again with the response message simply saying that the prince is currently meeting with the architects of the just recently finished rec center that has been added to the Church of St. Augustine's grounds. As the Prince's Haven has begun to expand to encompass not only the original building, but several of the buildings surrounding it, going down possibly even a couple of blocks, pending the finalization of several deals. He will say to be on her best behavior, with the word best being in quotation marks, that he would hate for Miss Bellefleur to cause any unwanted trouble for the prince when he is in the middle of ensuring that the church gets the best possible refurbishing and upgrade as possible.
She will just answer with a message saying, "Of course," and a little smiley face sticking its tongue out.
No text message will be sent after that.
As Emma drives to the church, she gets to the door, and before getting out, she reaches for her coat so that it hides her normally more revealing clothing. And she gets out, and out of the boot she also gets a bag that has a few different that has clothing and such things that she would need for a few days. With her story, she always keeps this in her car. She never knows when she might need it. And so with that, she goes inside. She heads for the church.
She will arrive several minutes later, depending on how well the traffic is, which one would imagine would not be too bad at this time of the evening. But the way Reno streets are, with its particularly vibrant nightlife. Who knows for this particular night, but it does not matter, for when she does arrive, she will see that the lights for the church proper are all off. But there is a particularly large building adjacent to the church. One that looks like it has just been newly painted and renovated, and there are several lights on the inside, and she can see construction workers sort of going back and forth through the windows. She will also see Prince Alvarez's ghoul standing outside in a heavy coat of his own, sort of looking down at his phone. He has seen Emma long enough to recognize her car, so as he sees it pass by, he will simply look at it once and then go back to just staring at the skyline for Reno, trying to make it look like he is simply waiting for someone, which he is, but he does not want to draw unwanted attention.
Emma will simply walk towards him and smile, and she said, "Should I just head inside?"
As the ghoul will say, "If you would follow me, I will lead you to the good father."
Yes, of course. Lead on.
The ghoul will open the door and hold it open for Emma.
She will go through, making a grateful gesture towards the ghoul.
He will smile pleasantly and then enter himself. The rec center right now looks very plain, but you can see several of the construction workers moving around chairs, tables, furniture here or there. It looks like this building might have been like a clothing store, maybe even some other very large and open space building at one point, usually associated with one of the more commercialized shopping places of Reno. But for now, he leads her to the very end of the room where there is a hallway with stairs leading up, as well as several doors leading into several back rooms on the first floor. The sound of footsteps and talking can be heard, and the ghoul will lead her to the second floor, past several rooms, and finally to what looks like the door to an office. The door is closed right now, but it is obvious that there are several people talking inside right now.
Emma will just wait. Is the ghoul still next to her?
Yes, he is.
She will say, if we are going to be walking in here, maybe I should hide my nature. And she'll just make a eye gesture towards her shadow.
The ghoul sort of looked concerned at her for a minute, in that almost surprised manner, as though he might have assumed that you would have done that before entering the building filled with several kind construction workers in a very brightly lit room. But since no scene was made, he will just simply nod his head a little bit more forcefully than what would have possibly been necessary, betraying a bit of nervousness.
As the ghoul will actually notice as before he actually responds, and as Emma actually finishes her sentence, that's when she actually uses her willpower to bring down her shadow.
The ghoul will not say much while the two of you wait for whatever meeting is going on in the room beyond to finish. And if Emma has no other questions, then about 10 minutes would pass as they're just sort of standing along the hallway. About Halfway through, several construction workers come up with what looks like a bench that they put down and kindly offer for the two of you to sit at as they continue moving stuff back and forth.
She'll just smile. Goes, "Oh, thank you," with a smile that is between a just a friendly smile and maybe a flirty smile, something that they wouldn't be too sure if it's just friendly or if she is actually flirting.
Several of the construction workers, particularly some of the more younger ones who might have been more recently hired people, will definitely smile back, a few of them blushing, and as they walk away you can see them sort of chatting amongst themselves, possibly about the very pretty lass who thanked them. The ghoul just sort of stares at you again and then just continues looking down the hallway. It is becoming more and more apparent that he might be a little bit more socially awkward than he would like to admit. But Emma does not have that long to dwell on such revelations, as it's about that time that the doors to the office will open, and as the two can clearly see inside, several men in either relatively commonplace clothes, but nonetheless holding themselves with a stance that is, at the very least, betraying some level of authority. She can see the prince dressed in his what would now be considered classic priestly getup, is shaking the hands of several of these men and thanking them so much for the hard effort and giving his best wishes that this rec center will be a real gem to the community. And several of the men will smile and shake his hand and agree with them, and several more will talk about different timetables when they could do another meeting, or possibly getting several faulty pipes fixed in some of the lower levels. And after that, the people will leave the room, leaving the prince standing outside of the door with a pleasant wave for the men, as he will then turn to the ghoul and Emma, as he will say, "Ah, Miss Bellefleur, please come in. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I had to oversee the final touches to this building." As he will just nod at the ghoul, and the ghoul will nod in turn and promptly begin heading down the hallway and back towards the stairs.
Emma will just wave at the ghoul as he leaves them, and then head inside the room.
The ghoul will look back and, not knowing what to do, will just sort of nod his head and begin walking down again, this time at a slightly faster pace. As the prince will just smile, as he will just sort of, with a very polite full bow and outstretched arm, sort of gesture for Emma to enter the room.
As Emma enters the room, she'll look at the father and just say, "What a awkward little man you have working for you."
As he will, again, still smiling, just look up and say, "He is a decent man, which is rare for this city, and he does have his use." As the prince then closes the door behind you as you enter.
She'll say, "Oh, of course, I do not imagine that one such as you would take someone foolish or some bad man as a servant. I am sure you are very wise into picking who serves you. Anyways, as I am well sure he made you aware, I have a pressing matter to talk to you about."
As he will sort of look Emma over once, judging her words very carefully, and he will again, this time just with his arm, gesture to a seat that's adjacent to the desk, which takes up a decent-sized portion of this office space. As he will walk around to the other side and sit down, As he does so, you will see that his own shadow goes from being that of a ordinary mortal and begins to elongate, spasming, becoming more twisted and mist-like as a normal human slowly metamorphosizes into a emaciated and skeletal thing that turns, staring at Emma for a brief moment as its other half sits down and the oak chair on the other side of the desk.
As Emma sits down, her shadow will not really sit down. She will also let her shadow go and take its own will. The shadow will spread itself as if it's coming out of an egg, and the wings will just spread out of it. And she will say, I have had something very concerning happen to me tonight. Something that you and also the other older and higher up people might want to know about.
You can see the pleasant demeanor that the prince was putting forward begin to ever so slightly melt away as you say these words. You can tell that this was certainly not what he was hoping to hear. He does not make any other expression. He'll just simply say, "And what is that, sweet Emma?"
She say, I and a few others of our kind have been followed for at least the 2 last nights. Last
Are
night, as I
you...
was... Yes.
Continue.
She was yes, last night as I was helping our good sheriff through his work, we noticed that we were being followed. I took it to myself. I was the one to let the bad man following us to I was the one to convince him to let us go for a bit. I convinced him to go somewhere else, and he did. However, tonight I fell upon him again. He was again following my car, and as I approached him, I saw that he had a map of our dear and beautiful city. A map with a few interesting locations surrounded by a red marker. One was my neighborhood, which is why I do not wish to go back there right now. And another one was Falcone's Falcone's casino. The what is it they call it? The Silver Legacy. Yes, that is it. This area was surrounded, and also the Black Lotus. Pretty much everywhere I have been going for the last 2 nights, plus other places have been surrounded were surrounded by circles. Places where our kind seem to hang out. Of course, this particular place wasn't, and which is why I managed to come here. I, of course, managed to lose my tail before coming here. I would not bring danger to you or our country.
The prince will not say anything for a while.
As the prince is silent, she will say there is something quite disturbing about the man. While it seemed it did not work unless Well, I could sense he was trying to do something supernatural to me. I don't think it worked. All it did was bring back old memories from when I was, and she'll look around, from when I was still a Kine. And did not do much to me though. Maybe he thought it was gonna do more. The memories he brought back did not do anything to me, and I still managed to get him off my tail. It seems he is working for, well, he said he was working, he said, or at least he said he worked at the Church of St. Paul's. He invited me there, and
At this point, you may roll a perception empathy on the prince.
Guessing he will not be happy here. Two successes.
2 successes. In that case, you will see a glint in his eyes at the mention of St. Paul's. You may infer whatever you wish from that.
Shoulder smiles because the father whatever out of character, I forgot his name. The father that's well, pretty much the character that's been in the news.
Father Vic?
Yeah, because Father Vic, I believe, is the one, or at least is part of his group. It all started when I talked to Father Vic. I went to talk to him a few nights ago. I wasn't sure if I would just sneak myself and listen to him, or if I would talk to him. I figured out that if I just sneaked by, chances might be that nothing might happen, and that if I talk to him, whether it might be more dangerous, but at least I could get some information out of him, and I did. Apparently, their headquarters is, well, the same as the man that was following me, St. Paul's. And as I walked away, I listened in to the conversation he had on the phone. It seemed they are meeting on Saturday. He did not mention the time on the phone. He also, and the man that was following me also asked me or invited me to come to the mass. He told me a certain Father B would be glad to welcome me.
Again, the prince will say nothing. Just stare. Almost as if he expects there to be more to this story. Something that you're neglecting to tell him.
She will say, that is all I managed to figure out. Or that is all I managed to get out of him. Or at least I also managed to get him yelled at by his higher ups, she will say, smiling. I tried listening to what was going on, but unfortunately, and I apologize for this, I did not manage to hear what they were saying.
Actually, I missed that very last part. What was that again?
She said that she listened to them. Well, the guy he managed to get the guy who was following her yelled at, and she tried listening to the conversation and did not manage to actually hear it, and she apologized for failing to eavesdropping on that conversation.
As the prince again stares at Emma, judging her words very carefully, he will make himself sigh, look down, and then back up at Emma again, and say, "Is that really all you were able to glean from that, Miss Bellefleur?"
For now, yes. I have managed to. That is all I have managed to figure it out
As the
in
prince
few
slowly begins
short
to shake his head.
conversations.
Oh, young neonate, you are only seeing the facts. You are seeing the evidence. You are seeing what is directly before you.
What else was I supposed to figure out or to know?
You are being followed by what appear to be supernatural kine, who have been following you wherever you seem to go. They appear to be connected to Father Vic and this St. Paul's Church. But most importantly, that they have an interest in the Silver Legacy Casino as well.
Yes. She'll say,
Tell
oh,
me, Miss Bellefleur, why would a group of what appear to be religious kind have any connection to a casino where very recently a double of one of Mr. Falcone's family was brutally murdered?
I was hoping you, my good father, my good prince, would enlighten me on that matter. I do not know, and I was hoping to find out. They sure know. They sure seem to know about our kind, and she'll think and goes. It seems they also believe in and she'll look around. It seems they also believe in werewolves. The one I was talking to last night told me, when he told me that werewolves were nothing but mythical creatures, he did not seem convinced. I could see in his eyes, in his skin, that he did not believe that himself.
Father Alvarez will get up at this point. He won't do so suddenly, but he will turn around towards the window that would have been behind him and stares out at the city.
She will say, I do wish I had known about his kind. I have never heard of supernatural kind before. If I had known more, I would have, of course, investigated more. I am not one to let information slip out of me.
Oh, Miss Bellefleur, you are not wrong. The knowledge of such creatures is supposed to be normally beyond our predilections. There are scholars to this night who have yet to truly ever really grasp what those other creatures are. In fact, the very nature of categorizing other supernaturals together is highly indicative of two types of mortals.
What?
Do you know what those are? No. Do you have a guess at what those two are?
She will say, I am not sure. The werewolves, I have never seen one myself, but I have heard of them existing back in Paris. I am not even sure they exist, though I do know that all legends come from some kind of truth, so there's that.
Emma, you are again focusing on what was said, but not the implications of what was said. This individual grouped the kindred and the lupines together as a single group.
Because, yes, that if you did say there were two group of such mortals, I am, or not assuming, but I am guessing maybe that werewolves, well, the lupine might be one of them. I'm not sure. Although I am wise enough to know that the men following me were the other kind. I am very looking forward to knowing about the not normal kind, the ones that seem to know about us.
I do admire that fire. If I was to wager a guess, it would be probably one of the reasons why you were accepted into Clan Lasombra. But don't. And while I have yet to have a conversation with the lupines, I have run into them before.
So
they tend to group creatures into different allegiances, not groups. To the lupines, from what we have been able to gather, they seem to believe that there is some sort of war going on. A war that they are very fervorous about, almost like the Sabbat, if you will. It is a very stark, but nonetheless apparent commonality between our poor, foolish brethren and these wolves who walk in the skin of men. But no, that is not the point. The two people I'm talking about, well, one are witches, mortals who dabble in powers that they have no right to dabble in, who would blaspheme against God's work by claiming its power as their own. And the other, well, as the prince pauses again, looking outside the window, the other is far more complicated. Emma, are you familiar with what we term hunters as?
She was saying, I have heard of hunters that do not have supernatural powers, ones that just go around hunting us because they somehow learnt about our existence because some foolish bastards, shall say, because some foolish bastard were stupid enough to breach the masquerade somehow. And she'll think for a minute. She'll say, I have heard rumors of some with powers, although the room or the people that were talking about them would always kind of be quiet about it when me or other young members of our kind would walk in.
You were not wrong, but it wasn't always that way. A long time ago, hunter was a very specific term. It was used to describe the forebearer to the Inquisition. You've heard of the Inquisition, I take it.
Oh, yes.
It is a very, very loose, very shameful subject amongst our clan. And do you know why?
Shall say, no, my side was very quiet about our clan matters. He was more into Sebat matters, unfortunately.
Ah. Then he failed to see the point, the lesson from our clan's greatest mistake. As the prince will turn around to you and he will say, "Do you want to know what our clan's greatest mistake was?"
Of course, I do. I'm one to always seek knowledge, of course.
It, of course, was to think this. One moment. Okay. A very long time ago, our clan thought themselves the lords of that vast darkness. As I'm sure some of our brethren in the Sabbat still do to this night, they're mistaken. The abyss has no master. And they thought that they could use that darkness, that power, to influence the world and shape it to their whims. And when they did, the mortals saw what we saw in the abyss, the smart ones, that it was the absence of God. And so, in the face of such terror, they began to cling to God. They put aside their differences. They rallied together. And in their darkest hour, their faith was rewarded. God granted them a fire, and that fire spread, and it destroyed the old world. Emma. It made it so that the masquerade became necessary. And it was all because our clay could control the darkness, that they could use it without repercussions. It did show us, though, showed us many interesting things about the nature of faith. But it was from that time that the Inquisition was born, and ever since, that fire, that potential, has always burned within humanity. And that is why the Nox theocracy must ensure that it does not blaze out of control. That is why we shepherd the mortals. Because if they do not take up arms themselves, then they can never unite. Form an army like they did so long ago. They can never threaten our existence again.
Of course, I see your point of view and I agree with it.
If that fire has been lit in Reno, then we are all in grave danger, and worse, those who do not fear it will continue to stoke it with their actions. You have done very well by bringing this information to me, Emma, and your caution and initiative will be rewarded.
She'll just smile at this. She'll say, "Oh, it seems both times I talked to the man following me, he was talking about something that happened in this city shortly before I came. Something about a week where the sun did. Was it as a week where the sun did not rise?"
No, it was a week where the sky was a black void and the sun was nothing but a cinder in the sky, and vampires did not fall to the need to sleep, where they could walk around in broad daylight without bursting into flames.
She doesn't say that much. She'll just say he seemed to want to talk to me about a week where the entire sky above our city was black. I of course did not and could not give him more information because I did not know more. What is there to this story?
That depends from person to person. But in our case, it would be our position as shepherds of the night. To others, who knows? But that is not the point. You mentioned St. Paul's Chapel, correct?
Yes.
As the good father will sigh for a minute. A long time ago, back when I was still a loyal servant to the previous pontifex, St. Paul's parish was burned to the ground in an explosion. The cause was finally ruled as a faulty gas pipeline. I knew the kine who was the shepherd of that parish. Like my ghoul, he was a rare soul for the city. He was a genuinely good man. He did not buckle before temptation, but was not afraid to face it. His loss was a loss for the entire community. This chapel, Our Lady of the Snows parish, was built on top of what was left of St. Paul's. That is Father Vic's parish. I want you to go to Lady Blackmoon and bring the information you have given me to her. She was the one who did the investigation on our side of the fence those 30 years ago, and she will know more of its details.
Of course.
Like I said, Emma, once the fire is lit, it will burn us all. For we are the damned, whether or not we still strive to serve God's will or not.
She will smile, guys. The way I see it, God damned us as a challenge to tempt our fate, to see if we would still follow him or if we would turn to our beast. The best thing to do is to prove to him that we are his loyal servants, Even she'll smile to him and goes, even though we serve him each in different way and our views of him might be different, the most important thing is to go beyond and achieve this challenge and keep him in our faith, keep being faithful to him.
Emma, I did not take you for the philosophical type. You would fit in with our more liberal, or I suppose our very, very old conservative faction within the theocracy. Perhaps after all this is over, and you have become a proper member of our coterie, we can have a pleasant talk on theology. But for now, seek out Miss Blackmoon at her nearest opportunity. Continue to aid the sheriff and those of law enforcement to apprehend both these ne'er-do-wells, whether they be the Inquisition born again or black-hearted knaves.
She will say, yes. What of Father Falcone, of Mr. Falcone? His Silver Legacy Casino was also one of the areas that seemed to be looked after by their people. What should I talk to him, or will you? And you'll see that in her eyes, she won't hide it. You'll see that she doesn't really want to talk to him. She doesn't really seem to like him that much. She'll just say, "Oh, well, you take care of him."
As the prince will smile and say, "Worry not, I will inform Mr. Falcone that he apparently has more trouble than is let on. You just speak with Miss Blackmoon and continue to help Mr. Voltaire in his attempt to snuff out these threats to the masquerade and our livelihood."
Farewell. And she will bow. And she will say, I have tried contacting Miss Blackmoon. I have not been managed to get a positive response or any response of her as of yet. She seems to be very busy. May I, as you know, I was planning on staying here tonight. May I stay here till I get a response of her?
As he will nod and say, "You may. In the night chapel below, there is old dormitories that we use in case we have to give sanctuary to kindred. You may stay in one of those. You have the power to open the way. Just make sure you close it up once you're inside."
Very well.
You will find the entrance to the dormitories next to the statue of Clan Toreador. As you'll sort of grimace at that.
She'll smile, goes, "Thank you, Father." And with that, she will leave the room. When she leaves, she'll take her bag with her clothing and a bit more in there. And she will go to the dormitory, take a room. And as she sits there, she takes out a book out of the bag and start reading it. She takes out what was actually, just a sec, she will take out what was actually her size journal and what has some kind of supernatural occultic knowledge written on there. A book that looks like a book that looks like this. And she will start reading it. She is concerned about what is going on, and if anything is going to happen, she wants to get more knowledge that she can about it. And as she reads, she can't help but thinking about her sire, the sire that she both hates all the with all the bones in her body. She hates me more than anyone can hate anything as far as she's concerned. Yet she remembers when she had other feelings for him, when she couldn't help but love him. Very strange feelings. They have all they are all now turning into something very weird. And as she sighs and as tears of blood come out of her eyes and drop down her face, her porcelain looking face, she sighs and keeps reading. And as this goes on, our scene will end.